G'day, ZiggyD here, and today I want to present to you some research I've been doing for a while now on what sets apart the wealthy and powerful Diablo 3 players from the average ones like myself. I am indeed an average player. My true focus isn't on being the best Diablo 3 player out there. Instead, I focus on sharing information through my guides and commentaries to help the community grow strong. As such, please don't take this commentary as me telling you how to play the game. Instead, take it for what it is. A case study of a number of successful Diablo 3 players and the things that they feel make them successful. So, before starting, I just want to clarify that for the purpose of my research on this, I classified successful players as ones who have a gear set valued in the billions of gold and who accrued more than half of that through in-game means rather than the real money auction house. This means that players with 2 billion gold worth of gear that spent $1,000 on the real money auction house can't really be called successful, at least not inside of Diablo 3. I'm sure they are very successful in real life to be able to afford that. I mainly make this restriction in order to only get information from players that have shown a decent measure of success in-game. So, let's move on to the different things that the top players have in common. Number 7. Focusing on Paragon leveling. Nearly all of the wealthy and high-end players I looked at seem to agree that the best path to long-term success is through a high Paragon level. The benefits of a high Paragon level character are pretty impressive. You get a passive increase to gold and magic find that lets you avoid wearing these stats on your gear, and you also get a sizable chunk of main stats, equal to an additional decently rolled piece of gear. So, with a high Paragon level, not only are you going to be completing farming runs faster, but you're going to be doing them with a higher base magic find. As such, many now high Paragon level players recommend getting the best ruby possible for your helmet, rolling at least 2 decent Hellfire rings, and getting a Leoric signet if possible. The good news is that it's pretty easy to get the earlier Paragon levels to be able to start benefiting as well. The first 50 levels or so breeze by when using the bonus experience gear, and at level 50 you're getting an impressive 150% bonus magic find and gold find, which will make a noticeable difference in your drops. Number 6. A focus on efficient farming habits. This one ties in with the focus on Paragon levels, but where that was a big picture approach, this focus on farming habits and efficiency is a more micromanagement oriented approach. I went over a lot of these efficiency habits in a recent Alkai's Run commentary I did, which I'll link to in the description below, but the main points are the following. Successful players would farm lower monster powers rather than higher ones, saying that the number of kills trumps the bonus to magic find. They would also focus on farming runs with high elite and trash mob density, usually iterations of the popular Alkai's route. Another popular tactic was to ignore chests, environmental objects, and small groups of trash mobs. Some players even skipped goblins and resplendent chests, instead opting to spend that time farming more elites. Lastly, they would also skip certain rares that had low sale potential. One good example from a player named Wholemeal was that two-handed rare weapons, even rolled perfectly, were still inferior to a Scorn or Manticore and would sell for less as a result. Although farming priorities varied from player to player, all of them would practice a mixture of these efficient farming habits in their runs. Number 5. A great understanding of game mechanics and concepts. All highly successful players have a deep knowledge of the game they are playing, and this is obviously a huge factor in their success. Understanding the mechanics of different stats and having a good idea of how Blizzard intends their game to function can provide you with some distinct advantages. A good example of this was players that had a good understanding of the crafting system and how it would function in the long term. A lot of those players are now very wealthy, having crafted things that would profit for them, and then selling out their investments before issues in crafting viability became common knowledge. You can be sure that a lot of these players are now thinking about the current game mechanics and how they'll work in PvP. Number 4. Playing the auction house. The auction house is a huge part of the game, and although it can be fun to ignore its existence for a while, the most effective Diablo 3 players understand and know how to make money using the auction house. A lot of players that I looked into reported that a large amount of their wealth has come from flipping, recognizing trends, and making investments. Flipping was the most common, with players finding a niche gear type that they understand particularly well and then buying and selling underpriced gear in that niche for a profit. A lot of wealth has also been made surrounding patches, hotfixes, trends, and events. A good example of this is the rise of the Whirlwind Barbarians, and early investors profiting from the sale of gear relative to that spec. However, the investments wealthy players are making is a bit harder to know as they are typically guarded secrets, though we have had a recent example of Muldrin investing in life regen gear, which he feels will be very valuable in PvP. Number 3. Committing time. The time commitment was probably the first thing you thought about when I talked about high-end players with their billions of gold worth of gear. The idea of investing a lot of time is even met with hostility from some people. The truth is that successful players are investing time into their characters, but not to the extent of playing all day every day, at least in most cases. Most people that I looked at played for around 2 hours a day and would check the auction house at other points during the day. Of course, there are also players investing 8 or more hours a day into farming and auction house trading, but then to counterbalance this, there are players who are only playing every other day for a couple of hours at most. Time investment is important, but efficient use of this time is more important. All of the focus on efficiency and farming makes sense when you consider that players are trying to make the most of their available playtime. Number 2. Reiteration and Optimization. Diablo 3 is a game of optimization, and the top players are always trying tweaks to their builds, habits, and farming routes. Reiteration and Optimization is all about seeking efficiency, perfecting your play, and learning the mechanics of the game from experience. You can be reasonably successful following a guide laid out by someone else, but you can only really improve by leading the way yourself. Embracing criticism and trying new things to improve is a habit of successful people in any field, not just Diablo 3. And number 1. Long-term goals. I think the number one thing that binds all of the most successful players together is that most of them have a long-term goal of some description. If you can't find a reason to do all of the previous 6 things, then why would you even bother? It's a lot of work. The most common long-term goals I've seen are preparing for upcoming content, usually PvP, and the pursuit of perfection. However, I'm sure there are other long-term goals such as being a leader in the community and impressing people, although these are mentioned or realised less. It may even be possible that some players don't have goals, but the existence of long-term goals seems to be a very common theme between high-level players. So that's most of what I've discovered from researching the habits of highly effective Diablo 3 players. I know I've been taking a lot of these on board, especially in regards to efficiency, though I don't think I'll be flipping on the auction house in the near future. I'd love to hear what you guys think of these habits, and whether you'll be modifying your own to try and up your game. Of course, playing for maximum efficiency with hardcore goals in mind isn't what everybody finds fun. Some of you may simply enjoy playing the game with a more relaxed approach. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, then please consider sending the link to at least one friend. It's the biggest thank you that you can possibly give a YouTuber. That's it for today. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.